262 BC, the Qin army captured a large piece of land from the state of Han. The local Han officers refused to surrender, instead offering the land to the state of Zhao. A war broke out between Qin and Zhao. The two states concentrated over 1 million soldiers in total at a place called Changping in the state of Zhao. A great war was about to explode. It was the biggest battle in ancient military history. This battle would decide the political setup in the period of the Warring States. Changping is located today in Gaoping County, Shanxi Province. The war broke out in this valley. The ancient historians don't mention much about the Qin army that engaged in this battle, so our image of them is not clear. But today military experts can infer how that formidable army went into battle from the Terracotta warriors. In the Battle of Changping, the main force of the Qin army faced the strong Zhao army, which was rolling forward like a tide. How did they start the attack? What was the fighting formation? Could these unmoving terracotta warriors tell us something? In the forefront of the main force of the terracotta warriors stand 3 lines of soldiers. It can be imagined that they were the first wave to go into battle against the Zhao army at Changping Valley. The archaeologists discovered all of the weapons used by this first wave were long-range crossbows. The crossbowmen were divided into 3 lines and directly faced hundreds of thousands of Zhao soldiers who were rolling towards them.
工农啊，它这个射击啊，有一条规律性的意思。因为啊，说临敌不过3发了意思。说敌人往前冲了，你装这一支箭装上去以后，射出去，你再装一支，敌人还往前冲。这3支箭射出去以后，敌人就冲到面前来了，就是。所以这个时空关系就是这样子。所以古代射击的时候，一定要轮番射击的意思。
This is the first time for people to see the fighting formation of crossbowmen with their own eyes. The experts hold that it was reasonable for them to stand in 3 lines. It can be inferred when the men in the first line were shooting, those in the next 2 lines could draw strings and fit arrows. The crossbowmen in 3 lines could shoot by turns. On a battlefield, this intensive force was lethal. In the Museum of Terracotta Warriors, this is the second pit of terracotta warriors discovered. It's still covered by a thick layer of earth. But computer techniques can help archaeologists to construct an underground view. An independent crossbow unit was standing under the earth. The men in the front line were shooting. Those in the rear lines were squatting, getting ready to shoot. They must have moved up and down in coordination. This was obviously a moment of fighting by the crossbowmen. Nearly 2,000 years after the Qin army, the Europeans organized firelocks in a similar way. It was most likely the Qin army that created this classical successive shooting method. At Changping Valley, the Zhao army at the very beginning encountered the crossbowmen of the Qin army. Thousands of crossbows were discharged at the same time. The Zhao had to pay with their lives for every single step forward, and this was only the first defense by the Qin army. Since the discovery of the terracotta warriors in 1974, archaeological work has never stopped. The archaeologists found traces of a 6.3-metre long spear handle. A complete spear was nearly 7 metres long with its spearhead on. Such a long weapon was very heavy to hold. How could Qin warriors fight in battle with them?
这个长矛超过了人的身高的3倍，一个超过人身高3倍的长矛就
如同一个人扛了一长竹竿进一胡同都掉不了头的，是很危险的。
If it was used for man-to-man fighting, it would be impossible to fight freely with a 7-meter-long spear. But in ancient Greece, Alexander's army was noted for its 7.2-meter-long spears. The square array made up with long spears was invincible. Experts think that there must have been a similar square array with long spears in the Qin infantry. The strength of long spears lies in their collective power. No matter what happened, those warriors had to march forward with their long spears. The warriors in the front lines fell down, those in the rear lines had to fill up to keep the square array unchanged. It can be imagined that the warriors had to undergo strict training in order to turn several thousand men into a square fortress-like array.
方阵在古代冷兵器时代往前走是所向披靡的，如同一座山一座城整个过来了。
Because of the nature of the weapon and its mode of operation, spears were the strongest anti-personnel force in the arms of the infantry. The huge impact force caused by spears and the square array was irresistible in a fierce battle. In the pit of the Terracotta warriors, archaeologists found two other kinds of stabbing weapons. The length of a halberd was about 2.8 meters. A spearhead was in fact fixed at the top of a dagger axe. It could be used to hook, slash and stab. Halberdiers, in contrast with spearmen, could engage in individual fighting. For a halberdier, the key point was to be accomplished in free fighting and to display his individual ability. The third kind of long-handled weapon the archaeologists discovered was the pea. It was quite similar to a dagger fixed on a long pole. Its length is between that of a halberd and a spear, around 3.5 meters. It was most likely the lancers attacked their opponents using a special formation. Due to the different effective ranges of the spear, pea and halberd, they could be used in conjunction with one another for both attack and mutual protection. But today it's very hard to know how these weapons could be used in good coordination during a battle. The pit of the Terracotta warriors has been damaged. Most of the weapons in the hands of the warriors are lost, and those remaining are scattered everywhere. It's very hard to judge their original locations. Despite this, military experts found a good example of the coordination of military operations in the pit of the Terracotta warriors. Amongst the crossbow men with light packs, this warrior in armour was very special. He had a stabbing weapon similar to a spear in his hand. The reason why these spears were included in the shooting unit was because the shooters had to be protected to avoid the attack of the enemy at close range. From these details, the specialization and the coordination of military operations must have been quite advanced. According to the layout of the Terracotta warriors, the Zhao army first faced the crossbowmen of the Qin army at Changping battlefield over 2,000 years ago. Closely following them came the infantry attack. They were the real main forces of the Qin army. According to Sima Qian's The Historical Records, the Zhao army suffered heavy losses when the two sides engaged in the first battle. Lian Po, commander-in-chief of the Zhao army, knew well the merciless Qin army, so he changed tactics and retreated, resorting to building defensive ramparts on favourable terrain. The Qin army tried for a long time to capture it, but failed. They were far away from their homeland. The situation was not good. The strategy of the Qin army to sow distrust amongst the Zhao caused the Zhao king to appoint a young commander, Zhao Kuo, to replace Lian Po. Zhao Kuo changed the disposition of the army as soon as he got to the front. He took the initiative and started to attack the Qin. A military genius during the Warring States period, Bai Qi was secretly appointed commander-in-chief of the Qin. When the Zhao army staged a large-scale offensive, Baiqi took the opportunity to defeat his opponents. After careful consideration and discussion, a bold plan was drawn up. The main force of the Qin army began to build ramparts on favourable terrain southeast of Changping. They pretended to retreat in defeat on Baiqi's orders. Zhao Kuo was taken in as expected. He led the main force of the Zhao army and left his headquarters. They were taken into the pocket formation of the Qin army. Under cover of night, 2 Qin troops silently left the ramparts on a special mission. One troop of 25,000 men went to cut off Zhao Kuo's route of retreat. The other, including 5,000 cavalrymen, went straight to the headquarters of the Zhao army. They ran a risk in taking such a decision. 2 troops would either be completely annihilated or completely change the stalemate situation. This river once cut the Changping Valley into 2 parts, and it still runs now. The Qin army, which outflanked the Zhao army in those days, crossed over this river. But the military experts have been puzzled by those 2 Qin troops. Which arm of the services did those 25,000 ingenious warriors belong to? How did those 5,000 Qin cavalry go into action? Nobody exactly knows. Over 2,000 years later, the archaeologists discovered the battle steed of the Qin army in the pit of the Terracotta warriors. The experts measured the height of more than 100 battle steeds. Amazingly, they found all the horses were 133 centimeters tall. The historical records say that the first requirement for the Qin army in selecting battle steeds was the height of the horses, which had to be 5.8 chu, which is 133 centimeters today. It appears the Qin army was strict in selecting battle horses.
在书上也说记载，说骑马是良的自己好了，好到什么程度呢？说探前绝后，说前蹄子往前一扒就探前了。后蹄子往后一蹬就绝后了，说探前绝后，体检2旬者不可胜所也。有前蹄子和后蹄子中间一纵一丈六，一纵一丈六，说这样的马多得很了，就是说都说不清的。
For many years, everyone knew that the Zhao state was the first one to establish cavalry in China, but this hasty conclusion has neglected a part of Qin's history. 3,000 years ago, the Qin's ancestors lived in the highlands east of Gansu province today. The meadows were fertile. It was a good place for raising horses. The Qin were brought up by raising horses. In the early days, the Qin lived near nomadic tribes. In order to stand up to these brave and skillful herdsmen, the Qin established their own cavalry. This could be the earliest cavalry in China. But where were the knights of Qin state? In this huge pit, still covered by earth, stands a complete cavalry unit of Qin state. The knights of Qin were slim in stature, simply dressed with unique leather caps tightly fastened under their chins.